the Hassanlu lovers, were killed circa 800 BC in Iran, which were found in 1972 stuck in their last embrace 2,800 years later. The two men died in what seems to be a kiss, their tale of passion, of touching, connecting throughout millennia. Ernest Holmes Sr. invented the first tow truck in Chattanooga, Tennessee, around 1916, after encountering difficulties pulling a car out of a creek. This innovative vehicle transformed roadside assistance and positioned Chattanooga as the birthplace of a new industry. A Mohawk warrior confronts Canadian troops during the OK Crisis of 1990, a 3-month standoff over native land taken for a golf course. A 14-year-old Mohawk boy was bayoneted in the chest, but despite their resistance, Canada ultimately acquired the territory. The Pan Am Boeing 314 flying boat docked in New York after a 31-day journey around the world in January 1942. Following the news of Pearl Harbor in New Zealand, Captain Robert Ford's crew flew west, covering over 31,000 miles to evade Japanese forces. Adolf Hitler bows respectfully before King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy during a 1938 visit to Rome in this moment of diplomatic pageantry. The formal gesture masks the darker ambitions between these fascist leaders that would soon plunge the world into devastating war. Captain Neil D. Stanley poses beside his P-47 Thunderbolt fighter plane, its fuselage proudly displaying his combat victories during World War II. Each marking represents an enemy aircraft downed, a testament to his skill and bravery in the dangerous skies over Europe. A Anzac soldier experiences the effects of shell shock after enduring the trauma of the trenches at Gallipoli, leaving him psychologically unable to adjust to normal life due to the haunting memories of war. Hiroshima was devastated by the atomic bomb, Little Boy, on August 6, 1945, leading to the destruction of 70% of buildings and leaving the city in ruins. An estimated 140,000 people died by the end of that year. In the 1950s, two white-coated men are busy at a rooftop in Stockholm, where a huge television antenna is being installed. These giant directional antennas were much needed in the early days of television when it took serious engineering to have a clear picture. Charles Lindbergh's historic 1927 transatlantic flight in the Ryan monoplane Spirit of St. Louis featured a non-stop journey of 3,600 miles from New York to Paris, taking 33.5 hours. He was rewarded with $25,000 and widespread global recognition. On May 27, 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge opened to over 200,000 attendees during Pedestrian Day, allowing cars to cross. The event celebrated this engineering marvel, which was then the world's longest suspension bridge, with military biplanes flying above the iconic orange towers. Brave river pigs balance precariously on a massive log jam, using long PV poles to guide timber during a dangerous spring log drive. These daredevil workers transported logs from remote forests to distant sawmills, risking their lives on the unstable, shifting mass of timber. An American serviceman shares field rations with two local children in post-battle Okinawa, showcasing a moment of humanity and kindness amidst the devastation following the brutal 1945 battle. Adolf Hitler is depicted awkwardly in traditional Bavarian costume, wearing lederhosen in 1923, appearing surprisingly ordinary and almost comical. This image highlights him as an average German citizen, making his subsequent transformation into a mass murderer more chilling. Victorian women used bathing machines, wooden cabins on wheels that provided privacy for changing and swimming, allowing them to maintain their modesty in the conservative context of the 1890s. Theodore Roosevelt climbs into an airplane at St. Louis on October 11, 1910, about to become the first U.S. president to fly. The daring flight demonstrated Roosevelt's characteristic adventurous spirit and progressive outlook on innovations that would transform the world. Exhausted American soldiers rest after a sleepless night awaiting a Viet Cong ambush that never came, 40 miles east of Saigon in 1965. Their weary faces show the psychological toll of constant vigilance in Vietnam, where the invisible enemy could strike anywhere, anytime. The Statue of Liberty, observed in heavy smog and industrial haze in Jersey City in 1973, symbolizes the environmental crisis of the 1970s, preceding the Clean Air Act, which initiated improvements in air quality in America. The citizens of Culpeper, Virginia, in 1863, were eagerly gathering around newspaper vendors to obtain news during the tumultuous Civil War, as newspapers were the only means of staying informed about distant battles. In December 1948, as the nationalist government crumbles and the Communist Army advances, a chaotic mob in Shanghai rushes to buy gold, desperate to exchange their worthless money during the collapse of the Kuomintang. During the November 1917 Battle of Cambrai, British Mark IV tanks were employed en masse for the first time, symbolizing a significant shift in modern warfare and demonstrating the industrial capacity for violence that emerged in World War I. The Apple I first shipment is stacked in boxes in the bedroom of Steve Jobs in 1976, presumably shot by Jobs himself. It is a simple bedroom shot that describes the simple origins of a technological empire that would become one of the most valuable businesses in the world. In the early 20th century, the Grand Clement Bayard dirigible, housed in a massive hangar, symbolized French hope and ambition in lighter-than-air travel before airplanes dominated aviation. Dean McCandless, a World War II veteran of the 505 PIR, 82nd Airborne Division, is distinguished for his service in all 4 combat jumps: Sicily, Italy, Normandy, and the Netherlands, enduring some of the most dangerous paratrooper operations on the front line. In a poignant family portrait from the aftermath of World War I, family members are shown in a somber mood, alongside a soldier's clothes, symbolizing the grief of countless individuals who lost loved ones in the conflict that was meant to be the final war. In 1973, a woman in Iran cuts her birthday cake and is in some smart clothes exposing her hair, and is free. The photo is taken of Iran prior to the Islamic Revolution that rocked the society, and an era that Iranians who later fled the country now cherish in memory. In 1956, children in America underwent animal therapy, smiling and playing with animals, which likely aided their recovery from polio. During epidemics, therapy animals provided comfort and encouragement to young patients learning to walk again. In 1945, amidst the devastation of war, an American soldier shares his food with 2 starving Dutch children, illustrating the enduring capacity for human generosity and the potential for healing and friendship between former enemies. The old Cincinnati Library, admired for its magnificent architecture and tall bookshelves, was demolished between 1874 and 1955 due to safety issues, including poor lighting, inadequate ventilation, coal dust, and unstable stacks that posed a collapse hazard. In 1965, a U.S. soldier in Vietnam displayed a sign on his helmet stating, "War is hell," yet his haunted eyes reveal the deeper mental anguish caused by the traumatic experiences of this divisive conflict, which claimed numerous lives and shattered many hearts. A soldier kisses his wife goodbye at Penn Station, New York in 1943, departing for World War II in an emotional farewell scene. This painful moment was repeated millions of times during the war years, as families were torn apart, uncertain if they'd ever reunite. A father passes out cold upon meeting his triplets for the first time in 1946, completely overwhelmed by the surprise of 3 babies. His dramatic collapse captures new fatherhood shock multiplied by 3, and this would be his last peaceful sleep for years to come. French soldiers pass by a dog wearing goggles and smoking a pipe in 1915, creating a surreal and amusing moment amid World War I. The soldier up front clearly does a double take, his expression seeming to say, "Hey, cute dog, wait, what?" at the unexpected sight. During the Spanish flu of 1918 in California, people wear masks to protect themselves from the deadly pandemic sweeping the globe. Of course, there's always one person wearing the mask ineffectually pulled down below their nose, just like during COVID-19 a century later. Eunice Hancock, a 21-year-old woman, uses a compressed air grinder in a Midwest aircraft plant in August 1942, illustrating how women took on traditionally male jobs during World War II, significantly transforming American society. In 1954, 2 girls danced in the streets of London, symbolizing post-war optimism and innocence. Their joyful expressions reflect a hopeful future as Britain begins to recover and young people are filled with dreams and aspirations, despite the recent hardships they have faced. It is a story of a German immigrant girl who is waiting to be processed at Ellis Island in New York of 1926. Life with hope awaits her. Her American dream, just like the millions of other immigrants that were passing through these halls, could only be hoped to have materialized. In 1942, Japanese-American college students were forcibly relocated to an internment camp in Sacramento, facing an unjust situation. Despite the difficult circumstances, these young men maintain their dignity and sense of style, leaving us to ponder their fates after the war concludes. It is a homecoming prisoner, Vienna, Austria circa 1946, who comes back with his prosthetic leg in his bag and does not wear it. It could be that the prosthesis is painful, or it could just be that he does not want to ruin it. But his worn-out face tells the story of survival. One of the boys is playing with his ray gun toy in the 1950s, and his joy is absolute as he points the camera with his toy. The mere toy imparts the space-age optimism of the time when children aspired to being astronauts and visiting alien planets. The USO gas rationing by roller skating was promoted in the 1940s in New York City, when women were roller skating to work with signs. Naturally, all the spectators of the gents were not staring at their skates. The attractive women in short skirts got all the attention. In 1899, Gay Jewel, or Jumbo, a 6 4 inch, 748-pound man, was recognized as the heaviest man on Earth. Despite his immense size, he plays the violin with remarkable delicacy, creating a poignant image of grace and kindness in humanity. In May 1946, American military authorities were ready to execute 74-year-old Dr. Klaus Karl Schilling at Landsberg, Germany, over his war crimes. The photograph reveals the cold reality of justice and responsibility, following one of the most corrupt chapters in human history. Oude Tongje, a Dutch village, was completely submerged during the catastrophic flood of 1953, captured by a U.S. Army helicopter. This tragic incident claimed nearly 2,000 lives and is regarded as one of the worst natural disasters in modern Dutch history. In March 1921, Thomas Whelan and Patrick Moran, scheduled for execution due to their alleged roles in Bloody Sunday, are seen shaking hands in Mountjoy Jail, appearing cheerful amid demonstrations by tens of thousands of supporters. Lena Baker was the only woman in Georgia's history executed by electric chair, convicted of murdering her white employer in 1945, claiming self-defense. She received a full pardon 60 years later. The cangue, a heavy wooden collar, was a common punishment method for Chinese prisoners during the late Qing dynasty and early 20th century. It was designed to publicly shame inmates, making eating and sleeping dependent on assistance. The bathysphere submersible, weighing 2.25 tons, was cautiously deployed between 1930 and 1934 by William Beebe and Otis Barton, who pioneered manned exploration of the deep seas off the coast of Bermuda. The 2nd Armored Division, the Hell on Wheels, American tanks spread on German soil in April 1945 and left prominent patterns on the earth. In the last desperate weeks of the European battle against World War II, the smoke is seen as they move forward to attack the enemy. Roger Mills and Jeanette Owens became Mississippi's first legally recognized interracial couple on August 3, 1970, though surely not the first to love. It's shameful that it took until the last third of the 20th century for the state to recognize such fundamental human rights. Fred Rogers demonstrated his trademark kindness and compassion in 1987 by performing a bedside solo show for 7-year-old Beth Usher during her coma at Johns Hopkins Hospital, illustrating his extraordinary humanity beyond television. Margaret Hamilton was pivotal in the 1969 Apollo program, specifically in developing the navigation software that was essential for the moon landing. Despite her significant contributions, the recognition of women's roles in the male-dominated space race has been limited. One Serbian soldier sleeps beside his elderly father, who ventured to the dangerous warfront in 1914 to 1915. This poignant scene illustrates a father's love, risking everything during World War I to reunite with his son. The young English girl, standing bravely before the camera between 1890 and 1910, is depicted wearing a remarkable prosthetic leg. Although these prosthetics were an improvement over not having any, they likely caused discomfort. Nonetheless, her composed demeanor exemplifies great courage. Maud Wagner, the first woman professional tattooist in America, shows her tattooed body in 1907 with not a shred of embarrassment. The idea of tattooing her body and becoming a tattoo artist defied all the Victorian standards concerning acceptable womanhood. John Smith, known as the White Wolf, is depicted in traditional Chippewa attire at Cass Lake, Minnesota in 1914. His wrinkled face reflects decades of suffering, attributed to disease and sun exposure, rather than old age, despite being over 100 years old. On December 5, 1933, the end of Prohibition was celebrated across the nation, marking a return to legal alcohol consumption after 13 years of illegal activities. The festivities reflected a collective sigh of relief from a populace that had endured an unpopular experiment. Roland, a massive 4,000-pound elephant seal, receives a bath from her handler at the Berlin Zoo in 1930, enjoying the gentle cleaning. Despite the name suggesting otherwise, this is actually a female. Males have distinctive trunk-like proboscises that give elephant seals their name. A mother holds her child close during the Great Depression in 1939, their faces etched with worry and desperate hardship. The photograph captures economic devastation's human face, not statistics, but real people struggling to survive with worn clothes and anxious expressions.